train smashes into a truck that was
Oh
carrying a
my
tank.
lord.
It happened in Goose Creek, South Carolina, after eyewitnesses said the semi-truck hauling the armored military-style tank became stuck on the tracks. News agencies say the driver was seen trying to free the trailer, but fled at the last second as the CSX train came barreling through. No one was injured in the crazy crash, but the roads had to be closed as officials were later left to clean up the mess that had left the tank top spinning. And eyewitnesses reeling.
My
A
God.
near collision on an airport runway in Tennessee caused a passenger plane forced to brake.
That's one here in Atlanta too.
This Alaska Airlines jet had been cleared for takeoff, but a reported ground traffic mix-up had cleared another plane on the same runway at the same time, forcing the Alaska airline to avoid a collision by braking so hard it blew multiple tires. No one was reported injured, but all 176 passengers had to make new plans after the near-miss flat tire fallout sidelined the plane.
Oh Lord.
Finally, how's about some vehicular news that'll make you smile? Nah, is that your bike? Yeah. Police in Medford, Massachusetts got to reveal a happy ending for a motorcycle owner whose beloved bike had been stolen from him. Medford PD says the bike was very unique, and through clever investigative work, they were able to track it down and surprise owner Mario Ferreria, who said he had saved his whole life for the bike and was clearly very grateful. No way, buddy!
When we come back, one of the most powerful leaders of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel faces justice in the U.S. Ismael El Mayo Zambada pleads not guilty to charges of drug trafficking, murder plots, and more.
And peace with Russia. He's preparing to present it to President Biden this month. That and more after the break.
No, people died there.
Stole internal Trump campaign documents and shared them with news organizations. Their alleged goal was to sow discord in the election. According to the Justice Department, Iran's government backed the hackers. Sources say charges could be announced as soon as next week. The news comes a week after charges were announced against Russian state media outlet RT. It was accused of secretly funding a media company that amplified right-wing American influencers.
A top leader of Mexico's notorious Sinaloa cartel, Ismael El Mayo Zambada, pleaded not guilty today in a U.S. court. The 76-year-old faces charges including drug trafficking and murder plots. Zambada, a co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel, appeared in a Brooklyn courtroom today where his lawyers entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. He's accused of overseeing a violent criminal operation with hitmen who carried out assassinations and kidnappings. U.S. prosecutors described him as one of the most powerful narcotics kingpins in the world. Zambada has been in U.S. custody since July and is expected to stand trial. His arrest has ignited violent clashes within cartel factions in Mexico, leaving several dead. Will Ukraine be allowed to use Western missiles to strike deeper into Russian territory? That's one topic President Biden and Britain's Keir Starmer are due to discuss. It comes as Russia warns such a move would be an escalation of war. Here's more from NTD's international correspondent, Malcolm Hudson.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is due to meet President Biden for talks in Washington. It's expected they will discuss Ukraine's calls to be allowed to use long-range Western missiles to strike deep into Russia. But Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday said this would put NATO at war with Moscow and would mean Russia would respond accordingly. Earlier in the year, he warned Russia could respond by providing long-range weapons to others to then strike Western targets. Starmer said Britain does not seek any conflict with Russia, adding Ukraine has the rights to self-defense, which the UK has been supportive of, such as by providing training capabilities, and said Russia started the conflict and could end it straight away. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on his recent visit to Ukraine that the US will adjust as necessary given Russia's battlefield strategy has changed. Blinken spoke similarly in May, shortly before the US allowed Ukraine to use American-provided weapons just inside Russian territory. The permitted distance has been largely limited to cross-border targets deemed a direct threat. This limit is out of concerns about further escalating the conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has long pressed allied military leaders to go much further. He argues that the US must allow Ukraine to target Russian air bases and launch sites far from the border. Starmer's second trip to the US as Prime Minister will also see him discuss the conflict in the Middle East and any potential progress that can be made toward the release of hostages and a ceasefire deal. He and Biden are also expected to discuss strengthening cooperation to secure supply chains, increasing climate resilience, and advancing a free and open Indo-Pacific. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says 49 prisoners of war returned home on Friday. It's part of a prisoner exchange mediated by the United Arab Emirates. Ukraine says the released include 7 civilians. There are also personnel from the armed forces and law enforcement.
I am so happy I cannot express with words. I was waiting for this day for so long. I am so happy to see the Ukrainian flag.
Ukraine did not say how many Russians had been released. Moscow hasn't commented on the swap yet. Also on Friday, Zelensky talked about a plan for lasting peace. He's set to present it to President Biden this month.
I will present him with a victory plan, a system of interconnected decisions which will grant Ukraine with enough strength to steer this war on the road to peace.
Zelensky first spoke about the plan last month. At the time, he said he wanted to discuss it with Biden and his 2 potential successors. Zelensky is expected to travel to the United Nations General Assembly later this month.
Chinese companies have been exploiting a rule that's meant to actually help small businesses. Now the federal government says that it is pushing back. It all began in 2015 when the duty-free exemption level was raised from $200 to $800. Packages under the limit entered with less customs scrutiny. The volume of packages entering the U.S. under that threshold has now exploded to over 1 billion just the past year. That's up from around only 140 million a decade ago. The White House says most of the growth is from Chinese e-commerce firms. White House officials said they will propose new trade rules to deny duty-free status to certain package types. The government also plans to add stricter disclosure requirements for small shipments. This amid fears of the potential entry of narcotics. Caught on camera, a black bear and her cubs wandering through a New Jersey neighborhood. Bear sightings are on the rise in the state, sparking some concerns.
Stay tuned. The gala presentations of the Toronto International Film Festival is Harbin, a historical drama from Korea. It was premiered with red carpets and famous Korean celebrities. The film retells the story of Korea's resistance against the Japanese in the early 1900s. Let's dive in.
Here at Toronto International Film Festival, the excitement continues as film lovers gather to celebrate global cinema. One film that particularly stood out is Harbin, which captured audiences' attention with its historical depth and emotional intensity. Starring renowned actors Lee Dong-wook and Hyun Bin, the film Harbin takes the audience to the early 19th century, when Harbin became a key location for the Korean resistance against Japan. During this time, Korean freedom fighters were actively resisting Japanese colonial rule. Set in the frozen city of Harbin in northeast China, the film follows a small group of Korean fighters who risk their lives to carry out an assassination plot that might change their nation's future. The film's lead actor Lee Dong-wook spoke about how connecting emotionally with these historical characters was crucial for the audience to truly understand the story.
I think how long ago the events of the movie took place is not that important. I think we had to really convey our emotions to be able to connect with the audience.
Audiences were deeply moved by the film's powerful storyline and historical significance.
So it was a really incredible, the cinematography was incredible, the storytelling, the acting, and it was about history that I did not know about Korea and Japan.
Barbara shared that her father lived through the Japanese occupation in China, giving her a deep impression of the horrors of war.
He tells me stories about the Long March and starvation and seeing people die on the side of the road. So yes, it's a very hard. War is very hard.
Harbin presents a gripping story of sacrifice and courage, blending powerful performances and stunning visuals to bring this key moment in Korean history to life.
Harbin is a very informative, educational, entertaining, and really emotional, but also intellectual at the same time.
Films like Harbin, its historical legacy continues to resonate with audiences worldwide, reminding us of the courage and sacrifice of those who fought for freedom. NTD, Toronto, Canada.
The video footage shows a black bear and her cubs wandering around a residential area in a New Jersey county. A home surveillance camera captured the bears walking across driveways in Waldwick, a borough in Bergen County. Local media say black bear sightings are on the rise in New Jersey. Figures from the New Jersey Fish and Wildlife Department show a 30% increase in sightings. Incidents and complaints have raised concerns among some residents. It's prompted a need to be more aware and prepared for potential bear encounters.
I would be concerned about that too.
Well, luckily, black bears are not as dangerous as brown bears or grizzly bears, so there's that.
It's true, but they're bears.
Yeah, well, stay indoors and observe from your window.
All right. Whistleblower Bob Luong is accusing tech giant Supermicro of manipulating its financials. He and his legal team are fighting to make all the evidence public. That and more after the break.
Newsroom, I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Chris Beers.
The Biden administration implements steep tariff hikes on Chinese imports.
The measures include a 100% tax on electric vehicles.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump holds a press conference at his Los Angeles golf club, and Vice President Kamala Harris, after 2 rallies in Pennsylvania this week, now heading to North Carolina today for another.
Boeing factory workers vote overwhelmingly to reject a new labor contract and go on strike. How the plane maker responds.
A heavy blow for one of the big 4 accounting firms, PwC. Chinese authorities handed it a $62 million fine over Evergrande auditing.
Whistleblower Bob Wong is accusing tech giant Supermicro of manipulating its financials. He and his legal team are fighting to make all the evidence public.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
The Harris-Walz campaign continued their swing state visits this week.
NTD's Jason Blair brings us the latest.
Vice President Kamala Harris finished up 2 rallies in North Carolina on Thursday and is in Pennsylvania on Friday. In Charlotte on Thursday, Harris praised the Affordable Care Act and had a warning about Trump's intentions for it.
Donald Trump intends to end the Affordable Care Act. And as Stacey mentioned, you heard what he said in the debate. He has no plan to replace it.
The Trump campaign responded, saying it's not what the former president intends to do. They posted a video from one of Trump's rallies.
I'm going to keep the Affordable Care Act unless we can do something much better.
Also on Thursday, Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, campaigned in Michigan. And on Friday, Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff campaigns in Mississippi and Florida. As far as debates on Thursday, Trump said on social media that he would not debate Harris again. The Harris-Walz campaign spokesperson said in a statement Friday, speculating that Trump won't debate again because of Trump's, quote, toxic answers, and, quote, the voters who will decide this election are repulsed by positions like these. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
If you're willing to hours, you could get a boost under a plan being floated by former President Trump. The presidential candidate announced yesterday that he will eliminate taxes on overtime pay if he's elected.
No taxes on overtime. The people who work overtime are among the hardest working citizens in our country. And for too long, no one in Washington has been looking out for them. Those are the people that really work.
Trump made the comments during a campaign rally in Tucson, Arizona. He told the crowd that working-class Americans deserve to catch a break. The presidential candidate didn't give any details about how the tax policy would work. Any change to the tax law requires an act of Congress. During the rally, Trump also repeated his promise to end taxes on tips and Social Security benefits.
Kamala Harris confirming today she wants to do another debate against Donald Trump, but Trump said that he is not interested. So what does that mean for the dynamic of the race? Earlier, I discussed this with Armin Kurdian, a political strategist and policy analyst, and Robin Biro, a Democratic strategist and former Obama regional campaign director. Take a look. Good to see you both. Robin, I want to start with you. So Harris, of course, she confirmed today that she wants this second debate. Now, assuming that that won't happen based on Trump's response, what's her strategy now? Like, what does she have to do for the public to become more familiar with her?
She's just got to hit all of the swing states all over every state, and she's been doing that. She did 2 rallies yesterday. She's doing a barn burner tour right now. She's got to bring that message home to every single state that's a swing state. Yesterday in North Carolina, she had 26,000 people in Greensboro. So I think she's doing a good job, but it is to her detriment that there will not be.
And Armin, did the Trump campaign underestimate Harris pre-debate at all, do you think?
I don't believe so. Thanks for having me on. I don't think it's a question of that. We've seen how Trump talks to reporters and other folks. Sometimes he can get, baited into discussing certain issues. When he was debating Joe Biden, he was on message, and frankly, that's probably one of the most, the disparity, one of the biggest beatdowns in television debate history we've ever seen. And then coming into this one, he allowed himself to get distracted on a lot of issues, which I didn't think were very helpful for him. But overall, I think Donald Trump would benefit from another debate. I think the vice president could benefit from another debate. Most importantly, the American people would benefit from another debate. Although I will say that if there was another one, I think he does have a very legitimate concern about how ABC handled it. I think there's a lot of folks out there, actually on both sides of the political spectrum, says a lot of the fact checking was false and wrong. It broke the rhythm of the debate and was very, very one-sided. So a much more neutral assessment of reporters is simply just keep the candidates, keep them to answering the question, I think would be good, and let the candidates actually fact check each other throughout the debate, I think would be very helpful.
Robin, what do you make of what Armin said there?
Armin brings up some great points, and even Kamala Harris has agreed to Trump's terms of doing one on Fox News, which I think would probably be go a long way toward leveling the playing field here. But I do agree with Armin that the American public will suffer from not. Now, former President Donald Trump said that technically speaking, this would be his third debate because he debated Joe Biden. So, you could argue, you could make the case that there's not a need for another debate. But I think Americans really do need to see the stark difference between former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I think you both make an interesting point there that this really is a debate would benefit Americans really at the end of the day. Now, Armin, has the dynamic of this race changed at all from a Republican's point of view after Trump refused to do this third debate?
I don't necessarily think so. I think we've seen a lot of very strange things happening during this election season, going back to even before when the primaries actually started. Overall, you can see, Trump was up by 1 point in the New York Times poll. Another recent poll shows Harris up by 3, and you're going to keep seeing these numbers bounce back and forth right among the range. And it's going to come down to those swing states and some very important counties. It's going to come down to turning out the vote and simply the ground game of folks going out there and knocking on doors, including local candidates running for school board, healthcare district, et cetera, banging on doors and get people to turn out the vote. And ultimately, Democrats still have a better get out the vote machine, But at the same time, there's also a hidden vote out there for Donald Trump that popped its head in 2016 and 2020. So it is going to be very interesting to see what happens starting 8 o'clock Eastern time on November 5th.
Now, Robin, for the Democrats, has this dynamic changed at all in light of Trump's refusal?
We are opening up more field offices. I'm speaking to you from Atlanta, Georgia, where we have 39 field offices here in this state. And President Trump has got, I believe, 26. So he's running a robust campaign here as well. But then you look at states like North Carolina, we've got 26 offices there, field offices in North Carolina. He's only got one. So you really have to wonder what's going on with the ground game. Armin is right. We do have a superior ground game. She's actually using my old boss, Obama's playbook for that. But it's a little bit dated of a playbook at this point in time because I've got to be honest with you, people in this day and age don't want strangers knocking on their doors. I'll be dead honest with you.
All right, for Harris, we still haven't seen a proper live unscripted press conference. Trump's been going on these podcasts. We just saw his rally a couple minutes ago. So we've got less than 2 months from Election Day. Can she afford to hold off until November 5th without holding a press conference?
No, I really do think that she needs to do a long form press conference and just take open questions and take some of the crazy ones, even from people like Steve Doocy. She's very adept. She's held press conferences before. She can hold her own. But I got to be honest with you, when she doesn't do this, it puts the onus on people like me and her surrogates to do that for her. And it's difficult because she only just put policy up on her campaign website just last week. So we've kind of been flailing out here with our arms in the wind. And I would rather her do that. I think she needs to lead by example here with this.
And Armin, I'm curious to get your perspective on what you think that Harris needs to do to better her image or to increase her advantages in this race.
Honestly, to be a little contrarian, I think, if I was Kamala Harris, I would not want to be tested with a lot of tough questions because, on general principles, whenever she is asked a lot of unscripted questions, she doesn't do a very good job of answering them. She gets a lot of word salads, and frankly, she is not going to be able to untie herself from the Biden administration. She cast the votes and a lot of tie-breaking votes, which actually ended up costing the American people quite a lot. We have higher interest rates, we had inflation, and a lot of those votes simply were not in keeping with what Americans want to see. So, her rallies are very good productions, and that's great for ratings as well. And it is good for fundraising at the same time. But I would, if I was her, try to stay away from the spotlight. Whereas Trump seeks the spotlight, and he's going to keep answering questions unscripted. And whereas some folks may like his answers, they like the fact that he's at least out there and he's standing on his own 2 feet.
And so, Armin, do you think that we will see any sort of
Instead
shift
of
in
avoiding
strategy for the two
questions.
candidates in the next 2 months?
What we're seeing right now from both candidates is they're throwing out not even new policies, but a new idea. I'm going to do this for you, or I'm going to do this for you. And frankly, a lot of times the candidates need to take a step back and be a little bit higher and speak from a 30,000 to 40,000 foot level, then drill down a little bit more into what they're actually going to do. Trump can go back onto his record of what he accomplished over 4 years. Record low unemployment, real genuine wage growth, which we still don't have since Biden has taken office, and border policies as well. And the Biden-Harris administration may point to things like, student loan forgiveness. The Green New Deal works really good for their base. But I think both of them need to show that they can stand on their own 2 feet, that they can stand on their 2 feet and confront the world's bullies and have that presidential presence in the White House, which frankly, more than policy, more than what you're going to do with the American people, is the most important factor and quality that we need in a president.
Right. Robin, what do you say to that? What do you think these candidates need to do with their strategy now?
First and foremost, they still have to fundraise. She raised $47 million within 24 hours of the debate. Campaigns don't run without money, and the Harris campaign just transferred $25 million down ballot races. At this stage in the game, I think it's important to focus on some of those down ballot races because whoever wins can't do it without a Congress that helps them, helps push their policies. So they really need to start shifting focus now to vulnerable races that we might be able to pick up because down ballot races make a huge difference in a close election.
You bring up a very interesting point with these down ballot races because with the general election, these almost seem to be slightly overshadowed a little. So, yeah. Armin, what are you seeing with these down ballot races and with what's going on in Congress right now?
You know, I consider a down ballot race, frankly, anything that's below the national level. So state, local, all the way down, school boards, healthcare districts, community colleges, planning groups, because essentially, the Republicans running for these races are, in essence, acting as volunteers for the national party because when they go out and they get candidates or get voters to vote for them and turn their ballots in, then more people end up voting for the higher races for Congress, for Senate, and for the presidential race. I'm very, very involved in local politics here, and to maybe counter something that Robin said about knocking on doors, having done it myself, I can tell you unequivocally in the regions of San Diego County where Republicans knocked on doors, you see a tangible difference in the voter turnout between those precincts and those areas, vice the county as a whole. So some folks don't like it. Some folks make it a little hostile at the door, but the vast majority of interactions I've actually had at the door myself have been very positive, whether Republican or Democrat, because folks like it when they come to you and they want to hear what you have to think.
All right, and right before we leave, we've got a quick 30 seconds left. I want to get both of your opinions on
I
Trump's
don't.
recent no tax